Crusaders. Today I am doing my big reading reflections favourites video. Now, this is a very interesting one for me because I've not been on Booktube that long, so a lot of books that I read this year I haven't talked about before, so this just gives me the chance to talk about those books that I haven't been able to talk about so far. And there are a lot of favourites in here and a lot which I was so excited about, and I am really looking forward to telling you. When I started the year, I really loved adult fiction, literary fiction and classics, and that is kind of reflected in the way I started the year. I feel like I first just want to talk quickly about my favourite classics of the year. The first book I read in 2014 was Brighton Rock by Graham Greene, and that one has still stayed with me. Another amazing classic was Brideshead Revisited by Evelyn Waugh, and if I was doing a top 14, that one would most certainly make it on. I discovered the Penguin English Library collection, and two I read from that were Where Angels Fear to Tread by E.M. Forster and Far From the Madding Crowd by Thomas Hardy. As well as reading 19th and 20th century classics like that, I also read a few very classic novels, my favourites being Gargantua, and in the 2015 I really want to read Gargantua and Pantagruel because the Pantagruel parts are the biggest part, and I am excited to go look into those. And I read from Ovid's Metamorphoses, which has also stayed with me as a beautiful collection of Greek Latin poems. I read A Game of Thrones in March, which started me on my fantasy journey, and if you watch my fantasy goals video then you'll see that I am just starting out on that. But another few noteworthy fantasy books I have read this year, Swords Point and The Privilege of the Sword have risen to be my favourite books just like that. And so if I was going to have a favourite book of 2014, The Privilege of the Sword takes that spot. Yes, talked about it a million times, but let's just give it another mention. Okay. The Night Runners series. I'm sorry, I just can't take it seriously the amount of times I've mentioned them. The Night Runners series is another fantastic fantasy series that I have read 4 books of in 2014 and intend to finish in 2015. I also want to give a mention to the new adult Curse Workers trilogy by Holly Black. Really fun and really special and different. And also the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy by Laini Taylor. Speaking of that, that brings me into the young adult section, kind of. I discovered young adult in 2014. I know that sounds strange, but I had not read much young adult as a young adult, apart from it came at a time when I just wanted to try some young adult because I discovered Booktube and I discovered how massive the YA genre had gotten, and there were a few which really sprung out at me, and I thought I'm just going to give these a read. I wouldn't say that I'm a massive young adult reader at any stretch. I seem to have read the ones which intrigued me, and now I just read the occasional one, and that's kind of the relationship I'm going to have with young adult, which I might make a video about. But some really good young adult books that I have discovered this year are the Infernal Devices trilogy by Cassandra Clare, and Beauty Queens by Libba Bray is absolutely hilarious and I think underhyped, and I also think gets sometimes a bad press when it is fantastic. And Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe, of course. A couple of others which make my favourite young adult books would be Prisoner of Night and Fog by Anne Blankman and Eleanor and Park by Rainbow Rowell. And for some last more general favourites, Harvest by Jim Crace I read at the beginning of the year and has still stuck with me. The Luminaries, of course, by Eleanor Catton. The Miniaturist by Jessie Burton. Those are all the best historical fictions I have read this year. Gin Glorious Gin was a non-fiction history, and that one was absolutely brilliant as well, and a great fun non-fiction if you want a history of London. I also want to give a mention to The World is a Wedding by Wendy Jones. This is the sequel to The Thoughts and Happenings of Wilfred Price. They are beautiful and very underrated. I think this has like 200 ratings on Goodreads or something, but if you want a book set in 1920s in Wales, then I would definitely go with this one. I read The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry and The Love Song of Miss Queenie Hennessy, and what would be a list without those. The 100-Year-Old Man Who Climbed Out the Window and Disappeared also makes my favourites video and would most probably make my top 14 if I do one. And the last book I want to mention is For One More Day by Mitch Albom, which I was late to read and it's good. If I have done reviews on any of these books, then they will be linked below. I haven't done reviews on many of them because, as is clear, I haven't really talked about a lot of them because I've only been on Booktube for a couple of months. I am really excited for 2015 now, where I get to talk about every single book I've read in 2015, and if any of these books spark your interest, then and you look them up on Goodreads and you'd like to know more about them or you'd like to hear a review, then please tell me and I'll see if I can get enough thoughts together on them to do a review. So these are favourites that stuck out in my mind. What are your favourites? Please tell me if you've done a favourites video so I can watch it, or just write down in the comments your favourite book of 2014. As always, all my links will be below, and I wish you a very happy new year. Bye!